I believe the risk assessment for the Cloud Sea Heart Phase 3 project is overly optimistic. I calmly closed the file in my hand. My voice was not loud, but inside the huge, silent conference room, every word sounded unusually clear. In an instant, every gaze focused on me. Those gazes held shock, confusion, and undisguised contempt. At the head of the table sat the president of the company. My wife, Quinn Vale. Her beautiful brows furrowed slightly, and a trace of displeasure flashed across her stunning face. She did not look at me. Instead, she turned her gaze to the man beside her. Victor Lang, vice president of Farstar Group. Victor wore a perfectly tailored Armani suit. On his handsome face hung a playful smile. He slowly picked up the laser pointer on the table and pointed it toward the giant projection screen. Mr. Grant, I understand that you are our company's special consultant. But business decisions, especially projects worth $1.5 billion, cannot be casually rejected after reading a few pages of reports. His voice was not loud, but he deliberately emphasized the words, special consultant, filling them with sarcasm. Suppressed laughter sounded around the conference room. Everyone knew exactly what kind of person this special consultant was. A man who had married into the Vale family 3 years ago. A man who had nothing except a face that was barely decent. Inside Farstar Group, a company filled with elites, my existence was more like a joke. A stain on the life of Quinn Vale, the business queen. I ignored Victor's provocation and pushed the report in my hand toward the center of the table. I'm not rejecting it. I'm stating facts. The report's analysis of policy barriers in overseas markets is only a few lines. It does not mention changes in consumer habits in the target market at all. Most importantly, the estimated return cycle is built on a growth model that is almost impossible to achieve. That is not optimism. That is gambling. My tone remained calm, as if I were talking about something unrelated to me. Over these 3 years, I had long grown used to this kind of scene. At the company, I was the dispensable Mr. Grant. At home, I was the husband Quinn summoned and dismissed at will. I once thought that as long as I gave enough sincerity, I would eventually warm her heart, frozen by ambition and career. Now it seemed everything had been my fantasy. The smile on Victor's face stiffened slightly. Clearly, he had not expected me to speak with such detail. A dark look flashed through his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by even stronger mockery. Mr. Grant is certainly well read. If one didn't know better, one might think you were the chief analyst at some investment bank. He turned to Quinn, his tone becoming intimate and gentle. Quinn, let's continue. We shouldn't waste the shareholders' precious time because of an outsider's opinion. The word outsider was like a needle, gently piercing my heart. I lifted my head and looked directly at Quinn for the first time. I hoped to see even the slightest defense in her eyes. Even the slightest respect for me as her husband. But there was nothing. Her gaze remained cold as ever. As if I were merely an ignorant child causing trouble at an important occasion. She spoke lightly. Victor, continue with your proposal. That sentence was a silent judgment. It nailed me completely onto the pillar of humiliation. She had silently approved Victor's insult toward me. In front of the entire board and all major shareholders, she chose to stand on the side of her lover. The atmosphere inside the conference room became increasingly strange. Shareholders exchanged knowing looks, and some even began whispering without hiding it. Silas Grant really has no sense. Is this the kind of place where he gets to speak? Exactly. Just because he's President Vale's husband, he really thinks he's someone important. A man living off his wife understands business risk. What a joke. Those voices were not loud. But they were like countless ants gnawing away the last shred of my dignity. My name was Silas Grant. In the entire circle, that name had nearly become synonymous with trash and kept man. After receiving Quinn's silent approval, Victor's face became even more smug. He cleared his throat and was about to continue his grand blueprint. But I spoke again. I oppose this project. This time, my voice was still not loud. But it was decisive. No room left. If my previous words had been a reminder, these words were a clear warning. You. Victor's expression finally changed. He slammed the laser pointer heavily onto the table with a sharp crack. Silas Grant, what the hell do you think you are? This is Farstar Group's shareholder meeting, not your backyard. What right do you have to oppose anything? His voice rose sharply, filled with anger and disdain. I looked at him. My eyes were as calm as deep water. Because I am Farstar Group's special consultant. This position was personally granted by President Vale. Although it is only a ceremonial role, at least I have the right to raise objections. Right? Victor seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He laughed exaggeratedly, the sound echoing through the conference room, harsh and piercing. A useless man who climbed up through a woman dares to talk about rights? Silas Grant, what do you do every day besides accompanying President Vale shopping, carrying bags, and attending banquets? When did you start understanding investment and risk? His words grew more vicious and unbearable. You drive the sports car President Vale bought for you every day. You live in the mansion President Vale bought for you. The suit on your body was probably paid for with President Vale's card too. Every cent you spend is stained with the hard-earned money of Farstar Group's shareholders. What face do you have to sit here and point fingers? You are nothing but a complete parasite. Every word was meant to kill. The conference room fell into deathly silence. Everyone was stunned by Victor's open, ruthless insults. Then they looked at me with eyes full of gloating amusement. I did not look at their faces. My gaze remained locked on Quinn. From beginning to end, she sat there quietly, watching coldly. Not one word of restraint. Not one glance to stop him. She simply allowed her lover to trample my dignity into the ground in front of everyone. My heart sank little by little, into a bottomless abyss. So in her heart, I was truly less than an outsider. So these 3 years of marriage had only been a one-man show I directed and performed alone. Victor's insults continued. He seemed determined to pour out all the contempt and jealousy he had built up toward me over the years in one breath today. Why aren't you talking anymore? Did I hit your sore spot? He walked up to me and looked down at me with the posture of a victor. Silas Grant, let me tell you something. Farstar Group does not support useless people. If you still have any self-awareness, get out on your own. Stop embarrassing yourself here. I slowly lifted my head and met his provocative gaze. My heart was surprisingly calm. Perhaps this was what people meant when they said the greatest sorrow is a dead heart. When the last bit of expectation turns into ashes, what remains is only finality. I ignored Victor and turned my gaze toward Quinn. Word by word, I asked, is this your meaning too? Quinn finally moved. She lifted the coffee in front of her, took a gentle sip, her posture elegant. As if that vicious humiliation just now had nothing to do with her. She set down the cup with a crisp sound. Then she raised those beautiful eyes and looked at me. In her gaze, there was no anger. No guilt. Only icy indifference and a trace of impatience. Silas, stop making trouble. Her voice remained cold and pleasant. But the words were like a poisoned knife. This is the company, not home. Victor's words were a little direct, but they were not entirely unreasonable. You don't understand how important the Cloud Sea Heart project is to the company. If you don't like hearing this, then get out of the company. Get out of the company. Those 5 words came from the mouth of the wife I had loved for 3 years. So casual. So cruel. She did not even bother finding a proper excuse. She simply borrowed Victor's words. At that moment, I finally woke up completely. I laughed. Silently. Laughing at my own innocence. Laughing at my own stupidity. I slowly stood and straightened the suit Victor had mocked as, bought by President Vale. This suit was something I had custom-made for myself on my birthday last year. It cost nearly 6 figures. Every cent was my own. Unfortunately, in their eyes, everything I had belonged to Quinn. Fine. I said only one word. Then, in front of everyone, I removed the work badge from my neck. The badge that symbolized my identity as special consultant to the president was placed gently on the conference table. President Vale. Vice President Lang. My form of address had changed. From this moment on, I, Silas Grant, officially resigned from all positions at Farstar Group. After saying that, I did not look at anyone again. I turned and walked toward the conference room door. My back remained straight. This was the last dignity I left them. Behind me was deathly silence. No one had expected me, a man always seen as spineless, to be so decisive. For the first time, shock appeared on Quinn's face. As for Victor, his face was full of delight. As if he had finally chased away an annoying fly. I did not look back. I knew that from the moment I walked out of that door, I had nothing more to do with Quinn Vale or Farstar Group. Those sharp edges I had deliberately hidden, those buried pasts, should finally see the light again. Walking out of the conference room, the heavy door behind me cut off every sound. I could imagine Victor's smug face behind that door. And Quinn's cold face, perhaps finally carrying a trace of ripple. But none of it mattered to me anymore. I did not stop at all. I went directly to the Human Resources office. The HR director was clearly surprised to see me. Mr. Grant? Why are you here? Isn't the meeting still going on? I'm here to resign. I was concise. Resign? The HR director's eyes nearly popped out. The cup in his hand shook, spilling hot tea over his fingers. Mr. Grant, you're joking, right? Is this President Vale's instruction? My instruction. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down, my tone allowing no argument. Follow procedure. I need all resignation documents today. The HR director looked at my determined expression and realized this was not a joke. He wiped his hand and hurriedly picked up the phone, seemingly wanting to confirm with Quinn. No need to call. I stopped him. This is my personal decision. It has nothing to do with President Vale. You only need to follow company policy. If anything goes wrong, I will take full responsibility. My aura was completely different from the gentle, humble Mr. Grant of the past. The HR director was suppressed by it. After hesitating for a long time, he finally put down the phone. All right, Mr. Grant. I'll handle it immediately. For the next hour, I signed every document HR required. On the handover checklist, my name held almost nothing. No company laptop. No project documents. Not even an office chair. My position as special consultant had indeed been clean. After finishing everything, I carried the thin resignation certificate and walked out of Farstar Group's tower. Outside, the sunlight was bright, almost blinding. I narrowed my eyes. For the first time in 3 years, I felt so light. As if I had removed a heavy shackle from my body. I walked to a quiet corner, took out my phone, and dialed a number I knew by heart. The call was answered almost instantly. Sir. A crisp and capable female voice came from the other end. It was my secretary, Mia Sutton. A secretary who only answered to me. A woman whose existence even Quinn Vale did not know. I've resigned, I said lightly. Mia was silent for 2 seconds, then asked in a completely steady tone, "What do you need me to do?" She never asked why. Only what result I wanted. That was what I admired about her. I looked at Farstar Group's towering logo, and the corner of my mouth curved into an icy arc. Mia, activate the final phase of the title plan. Withdraw all investment from Farstar Group. Immediately. Yes, sir. Mia's voice remained calm. As if I had not ordered her to withdraw enough money to shake a business empire, but only asked her to buy me coffee downstairs. And one more thing. I added, use all our channels to short Farstar Group's stock. I want it worthless before market close today. After hanging up, I deleted the call record with Mia. For these 3 years, to avoid making Quinn suspicious, I had always used the most ordinary old phone. My contacts contained only her and a few meaningless numbers. My true business empire was managed through another highly encrypted satellite phone by Mia and the team behind her. I, Silas Grant, had never been a kept man. Before I met Quinn Vale, I had already been a well-known ghost trader on Wall Street. The tidal capital I founded was famous for fast, precise, ruthless investments. It managed a massive fund that even the world's top financial families watched carefully. 3 years ago, I met Quinn at an art auction. At the time, she was worried about Farstar Group's broken cash chain, yet still maintained queenly pride before others. That cold exterior, warm interior, strong yet fragile temperament struck me instantly. I fell in love with her. For her, I dissolved my overseas team, returned to the country under the ordinary identity of Silas Grant, and hid all my brilliance. As an anonymous investor, I quietly injected the first round of capital into Farstar Group. $1.5 billion. It was that money that brought Farstar Group back from death and secured its leading position in the industry. Later, we naturally got married. I told her I was an orphan with no real ability. But I was willing to spend my life loving her and taking care of her. She believed it. Or perhaps, she simply did not care who I truly was or what kind of past I had. In her eyes, perhaps I was only an obedient, easy, pleasant-looking pet she could see when she came home exhausted from battle in the business world. To make her feel secure, I disguised myself as a complete, useless man. She gave me an additional card, so I used it. She asked me to be that laughable, special consultant, so I became one. I thought my retreat and sacrifice could earn her sincerity. I thought that once Farstar Group became strong enough, she would lower her guard and see my goodness. For that, through tidal capital, over the next 2 years I injected another $1.95 billion into Farstar Group through different overseas companies. Total investment, $3.45 billion. That giant sum was Farstar Group's greatest foundation. It was the confidence behind its constant expansion and acquisition of competitors. It made up nearly 70% of Farstar's total cash flow. No one knew that all of it came from me. Quinn only knew that a mysterious overseas whale codenamed Mr. Azure favored her company. She had tried countless times to meet this Mr. Azure. I always had Mia refuse through excuses that he kept a low profile. Even in her dreams, she would never imagine that the Mr. Azure she worshipped like a god was the husband she and her lover humiliated in public and told to get out of the company. I lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. Through the curling smoke, my eyes turned cold and sharp. Quinn Vale. Victor Lang. The game had only just begun. Since you treat my love as dust, I will let you see what remains after the dust settles. Gold? Or stone? Farstar Group. Top floor conference room. After I left, the meeting paused briefly. Victor Lang looked triumphant. He felt he had finally pulled out the thorn in his eye and cleared the final obstacle between himself and Quinn. All right, everyone. Let's continue. He picked up the laser pointer again, full of ambition. Regarding the Cloud Sea Heart project, our prospects are. Before he could finish, the conference room door was pushed open hard. The company's chief financial officer, Henry Wells, rushed in with a pale face. Cold sweat covered his forehead. President Vale. Something terrible happened. Quinn frowned, clearly displeased by Henry's panic. Director Wells, what makes you so flustered? Funds, our funds. Henry gasped for breath, pointing at the tablet in his hand. His voice trembled. Just now, 5 overseas investments totaling $1.5 billion were withdrawn from our company accounts at the same time. What? Quinn shot to her feet. For the first time, composure vanished from her face. Victor also looked stunned. $1.5 billion? Impossible. Which companies? Viking International, Blackstone Capital, Hightower Fund. Henry's voice carried a sob. All of them are investment firms under Mr. Azure. Mr. Azure? Quinn's body swayed, almost unable to stand. That name was her greatest confidence and her greatest secret. Impossible. Mr. Azure has always been optimistic about us. Why would he suddenly withdraw? Is there a mistake? Victor panicked too. If this was true, forget the Cloud Sea Heart project. The whole company would collapse. There is no mistake. Henry handed the tablet to Quinn. They withdrew through the highest level emergency channel. We cannot stop them at all. And what? Say it. Quinn snapped. And just now, 8 more investments totaling $1.95 billion were also fully withdrawn. Total, $3.45 billion. Our company's liquidity has been completely drained. Boom. That number exploded inside everyone's mind like thunder. $3.45 billion. That was nearly everything Farstar Group had. It's over, it's all over. An old shareholder collapsed into his chair, his face ashen. How could this happen? Quinn murmured in a daze. All color drained from her beautiful face. She could not understand what had gone wrong. Why would Mr. Azure, who had always been her firmest support, suddenly pull out the foundation? Suddenly, an absurd thought entered her mind without warning. Silas Grant. He had just left. Immediately after, the company's capital had problems. Could this be a coincidence? No. Impossible. Quinn instantly rejected the idea. He was only a useless kept man. How could he have anything to do with the powerful Mr. Azure? It was nonsense. Yet just then, Henry's phone began ringing wildly. He answered. After only a few sentences, it was as if all strength had been drained from him. His phone fell to the floor with a crack. President Vale. He lifted his head, eyes empty and full of despair. Our stock has collapsed. I did not go home. That so-called home was nothing but a luxurious cage Quinn had bought with her money. I went to the top-floor suite of a hotel in the city center. It was one of the properties I had purchased under my own name long ago. Standing before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, I could look down over half the city. Among the lights, Farstar Group's landmark tower had once seemed dazzling in my eyes. Now it looked like a toy building that could collapse at any moment. Mia was efficient. Less than half an hour after I arrived at the hotel, she had already set up a supercomputer connected to global financial markets. On the screen, Farstar Group's stock chart was like a spectacular waterfall, plunging downward. From $19.20 per share at market open, it crashed all the way down. Limit down. Then again. Countless sell orders poured out like snowflakes. There were no buyers willing to take them. Sir, the first round of shorting is complete. Estimated profit is around $525 million. Mia stood behind me and reported calmly. We used 17 offshore accounts and sold at different price levels, completely crushing market confidence. Farstar's market value has evaporated by 60%. Very good. I nodded, expressionless. Continue. Don't stop. Before tomorrow's market open, I want its market value under $1.5 billion. Yes. Mia left to execute the order. I picked up a glass of red wine and swirled it gently. Inside the glass reflected my cold eyes. 3 years ago, for Quinn Vale, I washed my hands of the financial battlefield and willingly became ordinary. I personally built her a business empire and pushed her onto the Queen's throne. I thought she would understand my sacrifice and cherish my love. I was wrong. Power and status make people lose themselves. She was no longer the strong yet fragile girl I first met. She had become cold. Arrogant. She even enjoyed stepping on me. I knew about her and Victor. I only kept waiting. Waiting for her to turn back. Waiting for her to give me an explanation. But what I waited for was public humiliation and the sentence. If you don't like hearing it, get out. Fine. Since you personally shattered my dream, I will personally take back everything I gave you. Once, I gave her a pen. I had designed it myself. The body was made of an extremely rare wood called stardust wood. On it were carved the initials of our names. SQ. I told her the pen meant writing with a pen as a sword, creating the future together. She was moved then. She said she would treasure it forever. But later, I saw that pen on Victor Lang's desk. He used the token I had given my wife to sign one document after another that could drag the company into the abyss. At that moment, my heart had already died. Today at the meeting, my objection was my final chance for her. If she had listened to even one word, if she had defended me even slightly, I would not have been this ruthless. Unfortunately, she did not. My phone vibrated. A text from an unfamiliar number. Silas, where are you? We need to talk. Quinn. I deleted the text without expression and blocked the number. Talk? What was there left to talk about? Now, it was hunting time. Inside the conference room, chaos had already exploded. It's collapsing. Everything is finished. My money. My entire fortune is inside. Shareholders wailed. Some beat their chests. Some began contacting lawyers. Quinn stood frozen, as if struck by lightning. Her mind was blank. Withdrawal. Collapse. Everything happened too fast. Too suddenly. Like a carefully planned lightning war, giving her no chance to fight back. Why is this happening? She murmured helplessly. President Vale. Victor was panicking too. He grabbed Quinn's arm and said anxiously, now is not the time to think about that. Hurry and find a way to stabilize the stock. If this continues, banks will call loans, and will truly fall into the abyss. Stabilize? How? Quinn suddenly shook off his hand. For the first time, she looked at him with anger and disgust. A $3.45 billion capital gap. Tell me how to fill it. What will you use to stabilize it? Victor choked and could not speak. He was only a vice president. On normal days, he could act high and mighty. But when the company truly faced life and death, other than saying nice-sounding words, he could not offer any real solution. There must be an insider. A shareholder suddenly screamed. The timing between the withdrawal and short selling matched perfectly. This is definitely inside and outside cooperation. Someone wants to kill us. That sentence struck Quinn's chaotic mind like lightning. Inside and outside cooperation. Once again, Silas Grant's overly calm face appeared in her mind. His decisive back as he resigned. And his warning. I oppose this project. Could it really be him? Once the thought appeared, she could not stop it. The more Quinn thought, the more frightened she became. Silas's performance at the meeting today had been completely different from usual. His analysis of the project risks had been too precise to come from an outsider. His resignation had been too decisive for a man who supposedly clung to wealth. Could it be that for 3 years, he had been pretending? Who exactly was he? A bone-deep chill ran through Quinn. She suddenly grabbed her phone and rushed out of the conference room, dialing my number again and again. Sorry, the number you dialed is busy. Sorry, the number you dialed is powered off. Again and again. All she received were cold system prompts. Then she switched to text, trembling as she typed. Silas, where are you? We need to talk. It sank like a stone into the sea. She refused to give up and sent another. Was it you? Please stop. The company is our 3 years of hard work. Still no response. Quinn completely panicked. Like a helpless child, she collapsed onto the cold corridor floor. Tears finally broke free. For the first time, she realized that the man she had never truly looked at, the husband she had considered a burden, might be the most irreplaceable existence in her life. But now, she had pushed him away with her own hands. Panic spread through Farstar Group like a plague. Executives ran through corridors. Phones rang endlessly. Every face looked as if the end of the world had arrived. Quinn returned to the conference room in a daze. The room had become a battlefield. Shareholders surrounded Victor, questioning and shoving him angrily. Victor Lang, this is all your fault. If not for that damn Cloud Sea Heart project, how would the company have fallen to this point? Exactly. Mr. Grant warned us there were risks. You humiliated him in public. Now look. Karma came. President Vale, we demand the immediate removal of Victor Lang from all positions. Investigate the Cloud Sea Heart project thoroughly. When a wall falls, everyone pushes. Only a few hours earlier, Victor had been full of confidence. Now he had become a rat crossing the street. Everyone wanted to beat him. He was pushed to the floor by several emotional shareholders. His expensive suit was pulled out of shape. He looked utterly pathetic. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing. He shouted in fear, trying to clear himself. President Vale agreed. This project was approved by President Vale. Without hesitation, he dragged Quinn down with him. Quinn looked at the ugly scene before her. All that remained in her heart was endless sorrow and disgust. This was the man she had once believed was more outstanding than Silas. The man who understood her better than Silas. When disaster came, all he knew was how to shift blame and show his true ugly face. She even began to wonder if she had been blind back then. Everyone shut up. Quinn used all her strength to roar. The conference room instantly quieted. Everyone looked at the former queen. Her face was pale. Her eyes red. But a trace of ruthlessness reignited in them. The company has not fallen. She said each word clearly. From this moment, suspend all work on the Cloud Sea Heart project. Victor Lang, you are fired. Get out immediately. Victor froze. He could not believe his ears. Quinn. You can't do this to me. Get out. Quinn pointed to the door. Her eyes were so cold they looked murderous. Victor was frightened by her aura and crawled out of the conference room in panic. After handling Victor, Quinn took a deep breath and turned to CFO Henry Wells. Director Wells, immediately contact all partner banks and apply for emergency loans. At any cost, stabilize cash flow. Also, hold a press conference immediately and announce that the company will conduct major asset restructuring to release positive news. In desperation, Quinn finally displayed the courage and methods of a business queen. Unfortunately, she did not know that everything she was doing was futile. Because I was the one weaving the net. And I would not give her any chance to escape. Henry spoke with difficulty, face bitter. President Vale, it's useless. Just now, HSBC, Citi, Credit Suisse, every bank we have business with sent collection notices. They demand that we repay all loans before noon tomorrow. Otherwise, they will begin asset freezing procedures. This news became the final straw that broke the camel's back. Quinn's body shook violently. Her vision went black. And she collapsed backward. I ignored the chaos at Farstar Group. I returned to the home where Quinn and I had lived together for 3 years. The villa was empty and cold. Every piece of furniture, every arrangement here, had been chosen and placed by me. I had once naively believed that a warm home could melt her frozen heart. Now, how laughable. I did not go to our master bedroom. I went to the guest room. Inside was a suitcase I had prepared long ago. A few changes of clothes. And some things meaningful only to me. I pulled the suitcase out and looked one last time at the place where I had given 3 years of feeling. My gaze swept over the wine cabinet in the living room and landed on a photo frame. Our wedding photo. In the photo, I smiled with pure happiness. Quinn was also smiling. But deep in her eyes was distance. Back then, I thought she was simply not used to being photographed. Only now did I understand that from the beginning, she had never truly accepted me. I walked over, picked up the frame, and placed it face down on the table without hesitation. Just as I was about to leave, the villa door opened with the passcode. Quinn stumbled inside. She looked terrible. Her delicate makeup was ruined. Her hair messy. Her custom Chanel suit wrinkled. She saw me. And the suitcase at my feet. Her eyes instantly became extremely complicated. Anger. Regret. Fear. And even a trace of pleading. It really was you. Her voice was hoarse, full of disbelief. Why did you do this? Silas Grant, why did you destroy the company? I looked at her and found it almost funny. President Vale, aren't you mistaken? I spoke coldly. I am only a kept parasite who was just humiliated by you and your lover, then personally driven out of your company by you. How would I have the ability to destroy your trillion-dollar business empire? You're still pretending. Quinn rushed up to me emotionally and grabbed my arm. Mr. Azure. You're Mr. Azure, aren't you? Other than you, I can't think of anyone. For 3 years, you've been lying to me. I did not admit it. Nor did I deny it. I simply looked at her calmly and pried her fingers off one by one. President Vale, please conduct yourself properly. We no longer have anything to do with each other. No. We are husband and wife. She shouted, as if reminding me and herself. Husband and wife? I laughed. My laugh was full of mockery. A wife who lets her lover insult her husband in public as a parasite. A wife who, after her husband is driven out of the company, cannot even be bothered to send a call or text. Quinn Vale, you are not qualified to say those 2 words. Every sentence stabbed into her heart like a knife. Her face grew even paler. Her body trembled. I was wrong, Silas. I really was wrong. She cried. Tears mixed with ruined eyeliner and traced 2 pathetic lines down her face. Forgive me this once, okay? Please, make Mr. Azure stop. The company can't lose that money. As long as you help me, I'll agree to anything. I can immediately cut ties with Victor. Too late. I interrupted her. My voice had no warmth. Quinn Vale, do you know? Taking back that $3.45 billion was only the beginning. What do you mean? Her crying stopped instantly. She looked at me in terror, as if looking at a demon. I pulled my suitcase around her and walked toward the door. Did you think my 3 years of endurance were only for love? My voice echoed through the empty living room like a whisper from hell. I did love you. But I am not stupid. Every cent I injected into Farstar was not charity. I stopped and glanced back at her. In the name of Mr. Azure, I signed the highest level valuation adjustment agreement with Farstar Group. The agreement clearly states that if the company experiences major management decision-making errors, or a moral risk event damaging investor reputation, causing the company's market value to fall more than 30% in a short period, my side has the right to activate the liquidation clause. Quinn's pupils contracted violently. Of course she remembered that agreement. It was the prerequisite for Mr. Azure's investment. But she had never imagined that clause would truly be activated one day. Even less that the person activating it would be Silas Grant. Today, at the shareholder meeting, you forcibly tried to approve a project full of risk. That is a decision-making error. And you, Quinn Vale, as company president, indulged your subordinate and lover in publicly humiliating your legal husband, who happens to be Mr. Azure's only representative in your company. That is the most severe moral risk event. So the liquidation clause has officially taken effect. I looked at her bloodless face, my mouth curving into a cruel smile. According to the agreement, I not only have the right to withdraw all investment, I also have the right to forcibly acquire all Farstar Group shares under your name at 30% of today's closing price. You want to acquire my company? Quinn's voice trembled. No. I shook my head. Not acquire. Take back everything that belonged to me in the first place. Then I stopped looking at her and walked out the door. Behind me came Quinn's hysterical screams and cries. I did not turn back. I knew she was finished. Everything she was proud of. Her career. Her wealth. Her queenly halo. Today, I would crush it with my own hands. I got into the car and was about to drive away when my private phone suddenly rang. An unfamiliar number. I frowned and answered. From the other end came an old, steady voice. Is this Mr. Silas Grant? That voice sounded somewhat familiar. I am. Mr. Grant, this is Conrad Vale, Quinn's father. Conrad Vale. The former chairman of Farstar Group, who supposedly stepped back 2 years ago due to heart disease and had been recuperating overseas. Why was he calling me now? Uncle Conrad, hello. I spoke politely. Mr. Grant, I know what happened today. Quinn was foolish and offended you. I apologize on her behalf. His tone was sincere. But something about it felt wrong. However, I hope you can show mercy for my sake. About the withdrawal, could you? No. I interrupted him directly. This is a business decision. It contains no personal feeling. The other end fell silent. After a long time, Conrad sighed. Mr. Grant, you may not know this. Mr. Azure's investment is not only needed by Quinn's company. Some other industries of the Vale family are also deeply dependent on Mr. Azure's authorization and credibility. By doing this today, you are pushing our entire family toward a dead end. His words made my heart move. The Vale family's other industries? Through Mia, I had investigated the Vale family. Other than Farstar Group, they had no notable assets on the surface. Could they have secrets I did not know? This supposedly ill old man was clearly not as simple as he appeared. Before I could ask what Conrad meant, Quinn's phone rang inside the villa at exactly the wrong time. In the dead silence, the ringtone was especially piercing. Quinn seemed to grasp a lifeline. She staggered over, dug the phone out of her bag, and saw the word "Dad" flashing on the screen. Seeing the caller ID, she instantly seemed to find her backbone. Hope appeared on her face. She hurriedly answered and turned on speaker, perhaps wanting me to hear her father plead for mercy. Dad, please persuade Silas. He wants to destroy the company. He's Mr. Azure. She shouted through tears, incoherent. But what came from the other end was not the comfort and persuasion she expected. It was an icy, unfamiliar voice filled with panic and anger. A voice completely different from the calm one that had just spoken to me. Quinn, Victor just told me you angered Mr. Grant away. You fool. Mr. Azure's authorization to us is also being revoked. The voice stopped briefly, as if suppressing violent emotion. Then came Conrad's stern questioning. Do you know how much credit backing Mr. Azure provided for our overseas operations? Because of what you did today, all of our family's Southeast Asian business may collapse with you. Quinn froze. Her hand holding the phone trembled. All color had drained from her face. She looked up at me with red eyes, as if trying to find the slightest wavering on my face. But I did not waver. I stood quietly, gaze colder than a winter lake. Quinn, Conrad's voice trembled with anger, right now, immediately, apologize to Mr. Grant. No matter what conditions he proposes, agree to them. Do you hear me? Quinn moved her lips several times before finally squeezing out a few words. Dad, you knew he was Mr. Azure? Of course I knew. Conrad's tone carried the anger of hating iron for not becoming steel. Did you think I knew nothing overseas? For 3 years, I have been investigating Mr. Azure's identity. And the result? The mysterious man was the husband you trampled under your feet every day like trash. Quinn's body swayed, nearly unable to stand. She leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on me. In that gaze, there was shock. Regret. But even more than that, indescribable fear. Mr. Grant. Conrad's tone suddenly returned to steady pleading. I know the Vale family wronged you. Quinn was spoiled by me since childhood. She is self-righteous and arrogant. But I beg you, for the sake of your 3 years as husband and wife, leave the Vale family one way out. My life, Conrad Vale's life, you can dispose of however you want. I was silent for a moment. Uncle Conrad. My voice was calm and cold. I'm not interested in your life. I only have one question. These overseas operations you mentioned, what exactly are they? The other end fell into a long silence. After a long while, Conrad sighed deeply. Mr. Grant, can we discuss this in person? It isn't safe over the phone. Fine. I answered lightly. Tomorrow afternoon at 3. Top floor tea room at the Grand Hyatt. I hope you can give me a satisfactory explanation. Of course. Of course. Conrad sounded relieved. Rest assured, Mr. Grant. I will explain everything clearly. After hanging up, I turned and looked at Quinn. At this moment, she had completely lost her former queenly pride. She was like a drenched, miserable stray cat curled on the living room sofa, hugging her knees, shoulders trembling. Silas. She lifted her head. Her voice was hoarse, like sandpaper. Do you really have to be this ruthless? I walked up to her and looked down. Quinn Vale, I gave you 3 chances at the meeting today. First, you silently approved Victor's insult toward me. Second, you told me to get out if I didn't like hearing it. Third, when I resigned, you did not even say one word to keep me. Even if you had said only, Silas, stay, I would have cancelled all my plans. My voice was light. But it was like a sharp knife. But you chose silence. With your silence, you told me that in your heart, I was less than an outsider. Tears poured from Quinn's eyes again. She suddenly stood and tried to grab my hand. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Silas, forgive me this once, okay? From now on, I'll listen to anything you say. I'll never see Victor again. I turned aside and avoided her hand. My tone carried a trace of exhaustion. Too late, Quinn. From the beginning, you never loved me. You only needed an obedient person who would not interfere with you. And Victor Lang was the type you truly admired. Selfish. Fake. Good at flattering you. Good at making you feel above everyone else. No. She shook her head desperately. Whether it is or not, you know in your own heart. I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the door. Don't forget, tomorrow at 3, your father will meet me. If you still have any sense, don't do anything stupid. I opened the door. Behind me came Quinn's heartbroken cry. Silas Grant. I did not look back. The night wind outside was cold, scattering her final voice. I got into the car, started the engine, and drove into the neon-lit night. My phone vibrated. An encrypted message from Mia. Sir, Farstar Group closed today at $5.55 per share. Market value evaporated by over $13.5 billion. We have completed all shorting operations. Total profit is approximately $4.9 billion. Also, according to your instructions, I retrieved all of Victor Lang's communications and cash flow over the past 2 years from Farstar Group's internal database. Please check the attachment. I glanced at the message. The corner of my mouth curved coldly. Victor Lang, did you think being fired was the end? I scrolled down and opened the attachment. The dense data was clear. This self-righteous vice president had embezzled at least $225 million from Farstar Group over the past 2 years through inflated project budgets, secret kickbacks, and collusion with outsourcing companies. More than half of that money had flowed into an overseas account connected to a hostile organization named North Abyss Capital. North Abyss Capital. I narrowed my eyes. The name sounded familiar. It was a hedge fund that had risen rapidly in Southeast Asia over the past 2 years. Its methods were extremely ruthless. It specialized in targeting poorly managed or crisis-ridden companies, profiting through hostile acquisitions and asset stripping. Its rumored boss was a mysterious man named Damon Gu, who never appeared in public and lived in seclusion. It seemed Victor and Damon had far more than a simple business relationship. I picked up my phone and called Mia. Investigate Victor Lang's relationship with North Abyss Capital. The more detailed, the better. Also, tomorrow at 3, arrange people around the Grand Hyatt. I need to discuss something very important with Conrad Vale. Yes, sir. Mia's voice remained efficient. Also, sir, Quinn Vale went to Victor Lang's apartment this afternoon after leaving the company. She stayed about 40 minutes. When she came out, her face was pale. It seemed she had a fierce argument with Victor. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. It looked like Quinn had gone to Victor hoping he could help stabilize the situation. And that man, selfish to the bone, probably pushed all responsibility onto her. Don't worry about her. My voice was as calm as water. Whatever she does now cannot change the established result. Yes. After hanging up, I stepped on the gas. The car sped across the empty elevated road. In the distance, Farstar Tower's neon logo grew dim and blurry in the night, like a star about to go out. The next afternoon at 3. Top floor tea room, Grand Hyatt Hotel. This was one of the highest places in the entire city. The 360-degree floor-to-ceiling glass windows captured all the city's prosperity. Outside, sunlight was bright. Clouds drifted slowly along the skyline. A scene of peace and prosperity. But the man before me, Conrad Vale, was full of worry. He looked much older than the last time I had seen him 2 years ago. His sideburns were whiter. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deeper. His entire body looked as if its spirit had been drained away. But those eyes remained sharp, carrying the cunning of decades in business. Mr. Grant. He lifted the pu'er tea in front of him and took a sip. At this point, I will not hide anything from you. I leaned back, hands folded on the table. I'm listening. Conrad set down the teacup. He was silent for a while, as if organizing his words. Then he slowly spoke. These 3 years, did you think Farstar Group was all the Vale family had? Wrong. Farstar Group is the face of the Vale family. But behind the face, we have another business. A gray trade route in Southeast Asia. My brows furrowed slightly. I know you may be shocked. Conrad smiled bitterly. But it is true. 20 years ago, when I was doing timber business in Southeast Asia, a local Chinese gang targeted me. They forced me to help them launder money. At first, I refused. But they threatened Quinn's life. I had no choice but to agree. From that point on, the Vale family sank deeper and deeper into that dark line. His voice was low and hoarse. These years, I tried to clean ourselves, but that line wrapped around us like a poisonous snake. Quinn knew nothing about it. I protected her well. She thought the Vale family business was clean, which is why she could stand so confidently as her queen. 2 years ago, I used heart disease as an excuse to step back. In truth, I went to Southeast Asia to negotiate with those people. I wanted to cut ties completely. But they refused to let me go. They used Mr. Azure's authorization as leverage. They said that if the mysterious whale behind Farstar Group withdrew, the Vale family's credit rating would collapse, and their money could no longer be cleaned. So, I continued for him. You knew I was Mr. Azure, but pretended not to know. You feared that if those people knew you could not control the situation, they would act against you. Conrad slowly nodded. I had indeed guessed long ago. An ordinary man capable of silently injecting more than $3 billion in 3 years, who else could he be but Mr. Azure? But I could not expose you. Once exposed, you would be in the open while those people remained in the dark. They would be dangerous to you. He looked up at me with a near-pleading gaze. Mr. Grant, I came today to ask one final thing. If you truly intend to liquidate Farstar, at least wait until I cut off that dark line completely. Otherwise, those people may become desperate and harm Quinn. I fell silent. Inside the tea room, only the low hum of air conditioning remained. After a long while, I spoke. Uncle Conrad, are those people connected to North Abyss Capital? Conrad's face changed sharply. How do you know North Abyss Capital? Victor Lang. I said lightly. Over the past 2 years, most of the $225 million he siphoned from Farstar flowed into North Abyss Capital's accounts. And he has had close private contact with Damon Gu, the man behind North Abyss Capital. Conrad's face turned deathly pale. Damon Gu, he is the young master of that gang. 20 years ago, his father forced me into the game. 5 years ago, his father died, and he took over everything. His methods are even more ruthless than his father's. He clenched his fists suddenly. I understand now. Victor Lang is Damon Gu's mole inside Farstar. He deliberately encouraged Quinn to push the high-risk Cloud Sea Heart project so the company would suffer a business crisis. Then he would cooperate with North Abyss Capital to short Farstar and profit from it. Even if you had not acted today, they would have acted sooner or later. I leaned back and tapped my fingers lightly against the table. So that was it. No wonder Victor pushed Cloud Sea Heart so hard. No wonder he was so eager to humiliate me and drive me away at the meeting. Everything was part of a game. A game planned for more than 2 years. Quinn and I were both pieces on the board. Uncle Conrad. I stood and walked to the window, looking down at traffic moving like ants below. I can agree to temporarily suspend Farstar Group's liquidation process. But I have one condition. Conrad stood abruptly. Say it. I'll agree to anything. I turned back, eyes cold. I want all information about that dark line. Fund flows, contacts, transaction records. Everything. I'll handle what comes next. Conrad froze. You want to deal with Damon Gu? Do you know what kind of man he is? He has armed forces. I know. The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. But if I, Silas Grant, could make more than a dozen top hedge funds kneel and beg on Wall Street 3 years ago, then 3 years later, I can make a Southeast Asian gang vanish like smoke. If you trust me, do what I say. If not, we end this conversation here. Conrad stared at me, his cloudy old eyes flickering with complicated light. Then, as if making an enormous decision, he nodded heavily. Fine. I trust you. He took a thick folder from his briefcase and pushed it toward me. This is everything. Mr. Grant, my old life is in your hands. I accepted the folder and flipped through several pages. Dense transaction records. Names. Accounts. Timelines. Like a giant spiderweb connecting the entire gray zone of Southeast Asia. Damon Gu. North Abyss Capital. And Victor Lang's names all appeared. I closed the folder and looked at Conrad. Do not let Quinn know about this. Of course. Conrad smiled bitterly. She is already chaotic enough. If she learns this too, I'm afraid she won't hold up. I said nothing more. I picked up the folder and left the tea room. Outside the hotel entrance, Mia was already waiting by the car. Sir. She opened the door for me. As instructed, I arranged people to secretly protect Elder Vale. Also, at Farstar Group, Quinn Vale held an internal meeting this morning and announced she would sell 3 subsidiaries to ease cash flow pressure. Halfway through the meeting, Victor Lang suddenly barged in and demanded his so-called severance pay. What severance pay? I frowned. Victor claims Quinn violated his employment contract by firing him and is demanding $3 million in compensation. He also threatened that if Quinn refuses, he will reveal every secret between her and Mr. Azure. I got into the car and sneered. $3 million. Victor Lang was truly greedy. Ignore him for now. Let him jump around for a few more days. Contact Director Chen at the Financial Regulatory Bureau and have him investigate Victor's $225 million cash flow. Once we have evidence, send him straight in. Understood. Mia nodded. The car slowly left the Grand Hyatt. I leaned against the seat and rubbed my brow. The situation had become complicated. At first, I thought this was only a simple emotional dispute and business liquidation. I did not expect it to involve cross-border gray trade and gang forces. Damon Gu. The name stuck in my heart like a thorn. But it did not matter. During the years when I was the ghost trader on Wall Street, what storms had I not seen? Those financial wars involving hundreds of billions and dozens of teams joining forces to encircle me were far more dangerous than this. Quinn Vale. I closed my eyes. Her broken, crying face in the villa appeared in my mind again. To be honest, I still had feelings for her. 3 years of marriage cannot be let go just because one says so. But that feeling had been worn down by her repeated wounds until almost nothing remained. I decided not to worry about her for now. The most important thing at hand was to pull out Damon Gu's entire line completely. 3 days later, everything advanced according to plan. Mia's team was extremely efficient. In only 3 days, they cross-checked all the information Conrad provided with Victor's bank flows and communications, forming an evidence chain of more than 300 pages. This evidence could not only send Victor Lang to court. It could also prove that North Abyss Capital had engaged in illegal money laundering overseas. I handed the evidence to Director Chen at the Financial Regulatory Bureau. After reading it, his face turned iron blue. He said on the spot that a special investigation would be launched immediately. Mr. Grant. Director Chen wiped sweat from his forehead. This matter is huge. I have to report upward. But I promise you, within 3 days, all domestic accounts belonging to North Abyss Capital will be frozen. Thank you, Director Chen. I handed him a cup of tea. You've worked hard. He waved his hand. This isn't hard work. This is removing a plague. We've been watching North Abyss Capital for a long time but never had solid evidence. This material of yours helps us greatly. I smiled slightly and said nothing more. After leaving the bureau, I drove to a remote cafe on the outskirts of the city. Mia had asked to meet me there, saying she had discovered something new. The cafe was quiet. In the afternoon, there were only a few scattered customers. I chose a corner seat. Not long after, Mia entered wearing a gray trench coat. Sir. She sat across from me and placed a tablet on the table. I just found something you may be interested in. I took the tablet. On the screen was an equity change record. 1 month ago, North Abyss Capital acquired 35% of a company called Quinn Media. Mia's voice remained calm. Quinn Media is a side business Quinn Vale registered under her own name 3 years ago. It mainly operates artist management and film investment. My gaze sharpened. In other words, Mia continued, Damon Gu had already penetrated Quinn Vale's personal business through North Abyss Capital a month ago. If he holds that 35% equity, along with some internal information Victor Lang controls, he can take control of Quinn Media at any time. I set down the tablet and tapped the table gently. Damon's move ran deep. He did not only want to profit through Farstar Group. He wanted to use Quinn Media to completely control Quinn Vale and turn her into a puppet with no autonomy. What has Victor been doing recently? These 2 days, he's been very active. Mia pulled up another file. He has frequently entered several law firms and met privately with several financial media reporters. It looks like he is preparing to publicly leak some so-called inside information about Farstar Group and Mr. Azure. I sneered. A clown jumping on a beam. One more thing. Mia's expression became serious. Last night, Quinn Vale went alone to North Abyss Capital's domestic branch building. She stayed inside for about 2 hours. When she came out, her face was terrible. I froze. Quinn went to see Damon? Why? Was she trying to negotiate privately with him? Did she bring anyone? No. She went alone. Mia shook her head. Sir, I suspect Quinn Vale may have been caught by Damon Gu with some leverage, or she may be under threat. I was silent for a moment. Then I stood abruptly. Get the car. We're going to Farstar Tower. Mia did not ask more. She immediately followed me. The car moved through city traffic. I sat in the back seat, faint unease rising in my heart. Quinn was arrogant, cold, and ungrateful. But she was not stupid. If she went to Damon Gu, there must have been a reason she had no choice but to go. Could it be? Had she discovered Conrad's secret? The car stopped beneath Farstar Tower. I strode into the lobby and went straight to the top floor. The door to the president's office was half open. I pushed it open and saw Quinn sitting behind the large executive desk. A pile of documents spread before her. A pen in her hand. She was writing something with her head lowered. Hearing movement, she lifted her head. When she saw me, she was obviously stunned. Silas? Her voice was hoarse. Heavy dark circles hung beneath her eyes. Clearly, she had not slept properly for days. Why are you here? I walked up to her and looked at the files on the desk. It was an equity transfer agreement. Transfer of 35% of Quinn Media. The transferee column clearly read. North Abyss Capital. My pupils contracted violently. What are you doing? Quinn forced a smile. I'm doing what I have to do. Silas, you don't need to interfere with me. Not interfere? I snatched the document away. Have you gone insane, Quinn Vale? Do you know what it means if you sign this? It means North Abyss Capital becomes the second largest shareholder in your company. Damon Gu will be able to control your business decisions and turn you into his puppet. Quinn's face turned pale. But she still lifted her chin stubbornly. I know. But this is my own matter. I brought this on myself. I put the company into this desperate situation, so I must bear the consequences. Damon promised me that as long as I transfer this 35%, he will help stabilize Farstar Group's cash chain. He will use Quinn Media as collateral and apply for a bank loan to fill the company's hole. I almost laughed from anger. Quinn Vale, do you know what kind of man Damon Gu is? He deals in gray trade. Can his money be casually used? Once you accept his help, you will never escape him for the rest of your life. Then what else can I do? Quinn suddenly stood. Tears poured from her eyes. My company is collapsing. My employees are about to lose their jobs. My father, at his age, is still working himself sick because of me. What can I do? Besides accepting his conditions, what else can I do? She shouted hysterically. Tears kept falling. I looked at the completely broken woman before me. A hardened place in my heart suddenly loosened. She was not without responsibility. She had simply gone down the wrong road. Her stupidity and arrogance had led her step by step to this point. But when she realized her mistakes, she chose to shoulder them instead of running away. This stubbornness was the same quality that had moved me at the auction years ago. I took a deep breath and tore the equity transfer agreement in half. You don't need to sign this. Quinn froze. She stared blankly at the torn paper in my hand. Her voice trembled. Silas, I will solve Farstar Group's problem. My voice was calm and firm. Quinn Vale, give me 3 days. Within 3 days, I will freeze North Abyss Capital's domestic accounts and make Damon Gu stop targeting your family. But after that, I have something to discuss with you. What? She looked at me, confused. I looked straight into her eyes and spoke word by word. About us. Whether you still want this marriage. And whether you still want me. Quinn's pupils trembled violently. She opened her mouth to say something. In the end, she only nodded hard. Okay. She wiped the tears from her face. 3 days. I'll wait for you. I turned and left the office. When I reached the door, I heard her ask softly behind me. Silas, do you still love me? I did not turn back. I only paused for 1 second. Then I pushed the door open and walked out. The corridor lights were bright. They illuminated the slight curve at the corner of my mouth. For the next 3 days, I almost did not close my eyes. Mia led the entire team operating around the clock. From the Financial Regulatory Bureau to National Security Departments. From Interpol to several Southeast Asian intelligence agencies. Every network I could activate was activated. On the first day, North Abyss Capital's 17 domestic accounts were frozen, involving $600 million. On the second day, North Abyss Capital's domestic branch was sealed for suspected illegal operations, and its main responsible persons were restricted from leaving the country. On the third day, through Interpol channels, I packaged and sent evidence of Damon Gu's smuggling routes across 3 Southeast Asian countries to local police. That same afternoon, Thai and Malaysian authorities acted at the same time, sealing more than a dozen warehouses and docks under Damon's name. By the time the news reached home, it was already 8 at night. I sat before my office computer and watched the message pop up on screen. Damon Gu had been arrested in Thailand by local police on suspicion of organizing cross-border smuggling. At that point, North Abyss Capital collapsed across the board. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long breath. 3 days. 12 hours faster than I expected. Sir. Mia's voice came from the phone. Damon's lawyer is applying for bail, but the Thai side has already rejected it. According to local law, his case will take at least half a year to hear. During this period, he will not be able to make any more moves. Very good. I picked up the red wine on the table and poured myself a glass. Thank you, Mia. Give the entire team 3 days off. Triple the bonus. Thank you, sir. For once, Mia's voice carried a hint of a smile. Also, sir, Quinn Vale called several times this afternoon. She sent a text saying she wants to see you and has something very important to say. I set down the glass and thought for a moment. Tell her I'll see her tomorrow afternoon. After hanging up, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the brilliant city night. 3 years ago, for a woman, I gave up everything and willingly became the joke of a kept man. 3 years later, for that same woman, I personally overturned a vast gray empire. Thinking about it, it was rather ironic. But strangely, I did not feel it was worthless. Quinn had indeed hurt me. She had made me lose heart. But when I saw her helplessly crying in the office, choosing to sacrifice herself to save the company, I realized the woman who had once moved me had not completely disappeared. She had only been blinded by power and status. She had made many mistakes arrogant people often make. But that did not mean she was beyond saving. I picked up my phone and opened the text Quinn had sent. Silas, I thought for a long time and decided to tell you everything. I wronged you, but I don't ask you to forgive me now. I only ask you to meet me tomorrow and let me say it clearly in person. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied with one word. Okay. The next afternoon, I arrived at Farstar Group as agreed. But this time, I did not go to the president's office. Quinn asked me to go to the art center where we had first met at an auction. The art center was located on a quiet plane tree-lined avenue in the old district. Its architecture was classical and elegant. Light came through the glass dome, soft and warm. I pushed open the door and saw Quinn standing in the center of the hall. Today, she wore a white dress. Her hair fell casually over her shoulders. Her makeup was delicate and light, completely different from the powerful queen in custom suits. She looked thinner. The sharp edge in her brows had softened, replaced by nervousness and vulnerability. Seeing me enter, her shoulders trembled slightly. Then she took a deep breath and walked toward me. Silas. Her voice was soft. Thank you for coming today. I stood before her and said nothing. Quinn lowered her head. Her voice tightened. These 3 days, I kept thinking about what I did wrong. I thought about a lot. From the first day of our marriage, one thing after another. On our wedding day, you were so happy, but I was 2 hours late because of a company meeting. You waited alone at the wedding venue for 2 full hours. Half the guests had already left, but you still smiled and led me in. Every time you cooked porridge for me, I complained it was too sweet and poured out more than half. You never blamed me. The next day, you silently used 1 spoon less sugar. I made you a special consultant because I wanted to give you a respectable identity, so you would not be unable to raise your head outside. But I never asked whether you wanted that. Never asked what you liked doing. I knew Victor did not respect you, but I thought he meant no harm, so I never stopped him. I thought you had a gentle personality and would not care about such small things. Quinn's voice began to choke. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. For 3 years, you silently treated me well. And I took your sacrifice for granted. I thought marriage was simply 2 people living together and did not require so much emotional care. But I forgot that the person I married was the man who made my heart beat faster the first time I saw him at that auction. She lifted her head. Her eyes were red. Silas, I asked you here today because I want to tell you something. 3 years ago at that auction, I did not notice you because of my company's cash chain problem. The first time I saw you, you were standing in front of a painting, quietly looking at it. At that moment, I thought this man looked so clean and gentle. I wondered how wonderful it would be to be with someone like that. Later, when I heard you were alone and had no background, I was actually even happier. Because that meant I had no worries. I approached you and married you not because I needed an obedient husband, but because I really liked you. By this point, she was crying too hard to speak clearly. I stood there. My heart felt as if something had suddenly clenched it. 3 years. This was the first time Quinn had spoken her true heart to me without reservation. That meeting at the auction. So she remembered too. Silas. Quinn wiped away her tears and tried to steady her voice. I know you may not believe me anymore. I also don't expect you to forgive me immediately. I only want you to know that I, Quinn Vale, am not a heartless person. I remember every good thing you did for me. I was too stupid. Too self-righteous. I lost the most important thing. I won't force you to stay. But I beg you to give me a chance. A chance to know you again. A chance to love you again. Even if we start from the beginning as friends, I am willing. After saying those words, she seemed to unload a 1,000-pound burden. Her shoulders lowered. But her gaze remained firm on me. Sunlight fell through the glass dome and covered her in a golden glow. I looked at her. For a long time. Then I stepped forward. 1 step at a time, I walked to her. Quinn Vale. My voice was a little hoarse. Do you know? Before you went to that auction, I had already noticed you. She froze. That day, I deliberately stood before that painting. Because I had researched you. I knew you liked that painter most. I wanted to find a chance to know you. But I didn't want to make it too obvious. Quinn's eyes widened, her lips parting slightly. For these 3 years, I wanted to say these things many times. But every time I saw your cold eyes, I told myself to wait a little longer. Maybe you needed time. But what I waited for was your indulgence toward Victor in that meeting. Quinn's body trembled. Tears flooded her eyes again. But I paused, my tone softening. When I saw you alone in your office yesterday, bearing all pressure and willing to sacrifice yourself to protect the company, I suddenly felt that the woman who moved me at the auction had never changed. She had only temporarily lost her way. Silas. Quinn was already sobbing. She stepped forward and gripped the corner of my coat tightly. I looked down at her. The corner of my mouth slowly curved. I'll give you one chance. I lifted my hand and gently brushed over her hair. But I have conditions. Quinn nodded desperately. Say it. I'll agree to anything. First, firing Victor was the right decision. But from now on, if anyone in the company dares to make things difficult for you, you must push back on the spot. Don't let people climb onto your head while you endure silently. Okay. Second, every day after work, you must come home and eat dinner with me. I don't eat takeout. I want you to cook personally. Quinn froze, then laughed through tears. I cook terribly. I know. I smiled. So starting tomorrow, I'll teach you. Her red eyes nodded hard. Third. I bent slightly, leaning close to her ear. My voice was low and gentle. From today on, don't call me Mr. Grant anymore. Call me husband. Quinn suddenly lifted her head. Her entire face turned red. She opened her mouth. Finally, with a crying softness, she called, husband. That sound was soft and sweet, carrying an intimacy we had never had in 3 years. I reached out and pulled her into my arms. My chin rested against the top of her head. I let out a long breath. The sunlight was perfect. It spilled through the dome in brilliant gold. When we left the art center, Quinn kept tightly clutching the corner of my coat. As if afraid I would disappear the moment she blinked. I looked down at her pale fingers and felt a soft ache in my heart. Let's go. I said softly. Home. She looked up. Her eyes were still red, but she revealed a long-lost smile. Okay. When we returned to the villa, it was already evening. The sunset poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, dyeing the whole room warm orange-red. Quinn took off her high heels and stepped barefoot on the carpet. She looked around. Then her gaze fell on the wedding photo turned face down on the wine cabinet. She walked over and gently turned the frame upright. Her fingertips brushed over my bright smile in the photo. This photo, we shot for an entire afternoon. Her voice was hoarse. The photographer kept asking you to smile until your face became stiff. I walked behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. Because when you walked out in the wedding dress that day, I almost cried like an idiot. The photographer told me to smile, but I couldn't control my expression. Quinn's body stiffened slightly. Then she slowly relaxed and leaned into my arms. Silas. She whispered. I want to cook you a meal. Now? She broke from my arms and walked toward the kitchen. After 2 steps, she turned and looked at me. You said you would teach me. I smiled and followed her. In the kitchen, Quinn tied on an apron and stood before the stove. She stared at a pile of fresh ingredients, completely at a loss. It was oddly adorable. She picked up a bunch of greens and hesitated for a long time, not knowing whether to wash or cut them first. I leaned against the doorframe with my arms crossed. Wash first. Then cut after they're clean. Oh, okay. She quickly turned on the tap. Water splashed all over her face. I held back laughter, walked over, and took the vegetables from her. Forget it. I'll show you first. Watch carefully. For the next 40 minutes, I cooked while teaching her basic techniques. Quinn stood beside me holding a notebook, carefully writing down points like oil at 70% heat. The difference between light soy sauce and dark soy sauce. Remove greens once just cooked. She was so serious it looked as if she were doing a corporate acquisition case. Sunset slanted through the kitchen window and fell across her focused profile. In that instant, I seemed to see again the girl quietly looking at a painting at the auction 3 years ago. After making 3 dishes and a soup, we sat at the dining table. Quinn took a bite of the green pepper beef I stir-fried, and her eyes lit up. So good. Of course. I filled a bowl of soup for her. Learn slowly. Once you can cook, it will be your turn to cook for me. She nodded hard and lowered her head to eat, especially happily. After dinner, I cleared the dishes. Quinn rushed to wash them. Water ran loudly from the tap. With her back to me, she suddenly spoke. Silas, do you think we can still be like before? I stood behind her, silent for a moment. What does before mean? Like when we first got married. Her voice was muffled. You made me coffee every morning and waited for me every night. Back then, I felt very secure. No matter what happened outside, when I came home, I could always breathe. Later I got too busy. So busy I forgot those things. Quinn Vale. I leaned against the counter, my tone serious. The past is over. We look forward. She turned off the tap, wiped her wet hands on the apron, and walked up to me. She looked up at me. Then tell me what I should do so you can look at me the way you used to again. I lowered my head and looked into her water-bright eyes. Suddenly, I remembered something. Quinn, where is that pen? She froze. What pen? The one I gave you. The body made from stardust wood. The one engraved with our initials. Quinn's expression stiffened instantly. She opened her mouth, her face turning pale. That pen. I put it in the study. Later. Her voice grew smaller. Later Victor took it, right? I finished the sentence for her. Quinn lowered her head sharply. Her voice trembled. I didn't know he would take it. One time he came to the study to borrow documents. He saw the pen and said it was beautiful. I said he could borrow it for a few days. Then I forgot. Quinn Vale. I sighed. I'm not trying to blame you. That pen was important to me, yes. But more importantly, did you know what it meant? She lifted her head. Her eyes reddened again. That pen took me 3 months to design. The stardust wood used for its body was brought from a South American rainforest through someone I trusted. There was only that one piece in the world. The SQ carved on it stood for our names. It also stood for Star and Quest. I paused. I originally wanted to tell you on our anniversary. But later, there was no chance. Quinn's tears fell with a soft drop. I'm sorry. Her voice broke. I really didn't know. I was so stupid. All right. I wiped away her tears. That pen is still with Victor. After his case is sentenced, I'll find a way to get it back. If you truly feel sorry, then treat me better from now on. She nodded desperately and threw herself into my arms, burying her face against my chest. I will. From today on, every day, I'll treat you well. I patted her back. The corner of my mouth rose uncontrollably. This woman looked rather beautiful when she cried. That night, we did not sleep in separate rooms. After showering, Quinn lay on the bed in her pajamas, curled into a ball like a kitten that had done something wrong. I lifted the blanket and lay beside her. She immediately rolled over and rested her head on my arm. I looked down at her. Not afraid I'll run away in the middle of the night? She shook her head hard and whispered, if you dare run, I'll search the whole world for you. I laughed softly and turned off the bedside lamp. In the dark, her breathing gradually became even. I heard her mumble in a half-dream. Silas, thank you for not leaving. I did not speak. I only pulled her closer into my arms. Outside the window, moonlight flowed like water, spreading tenderness across the floor. The days that followed seemed to return to the early days of our marriage, but with a little more closeness than before. Quinn truly did what she promised. Every morning, she woke 20 minutes earlier than me and clumsily made coffee for the table. Sometimes it tasted good. Sometimes terrible. But that sincerity warmed my heart. At night, she came home on time without fail. When company matters piled up, she brought documents home and sat on the living room sofa to handle them. I sat beside her and read. Occasionally, I handed her warm water. On weekends, I took her to the market to buy groceries and taught her different seasonings and ingredients. She wore an ordinary long-sleeve t-shirt and jeans, no makeup, dragging the shopping cart behind me. Sometimes, vegetable aunties praised her. Your husband really knows how to love you. She would blush and nod, eyes curving into crescents. This ordinary, trivial life made me feel more secure than any passionate confession. But beneath the calm, some things still needed to be wrapped up. Victor Lang's case had entered judicial procedure. The Financial Regulatory Bureau's investigation results came out. The evidence for his $225 million embezzlement was solid. Along with his connection to North Abyss Capital's money laundering chain, he would receive at least 10 years. On the day he was detained, he called me. He cursed me as a liar and hypocrite, saying I had pretended to be useless and deceived everyone. After listening, I replied lightly. You're right. I am indeed a hypocrite. But what are you? You're a true villain. After hanging up, I turned and saw Quinn standing beside me with a complicated expression. Don't think about it. I walked over and rubbed her hair. It's all over. She nodded, then hugged my arm. Silas, I want to restructure Farstar Group's equity. I want to transfer 30% of the shares to your name. She lifted her head, gaze serious. Consider it, a dowry 3 years late. I raised an eyebrow. Are you trying to give me the president position? Dream on. She snorted. I'm still the president. But you're the major shareholder. In the future, if anyone in the company dares to give you attitude, you can fire him directly. I laughed. Wasn't Victor's lesson enough? She pouted. More than enough. Now whenever I see people who love flattery, I get chills. I smiled and shook my head, letting her do as she wished. Another week later, Conrad Vale returned from Southeast Asia. He looked much better. Probably because Damon had been arrested and the dark line had been completely cut off. The stone pressing on him for 20 years had finally fallen. He specifically invited Quinn and me to dinner. During the meal, he drank quite a lot and kept holding my hand, calling me his good son-in-law. Quinn rolled her eyes beside us. Dad, you drank too much. I'm perfectly sober. Conrad slapped the table. Silas Grant, let me tell you. Quinn has been spoiled by me since childhood. From now on, discipline her properly. If she doesn't listen, smack her. I'll back you up. Quinn was so angry she almost threw her chopsticks at him. I smiled and poured wine for my father-in-law. Understood, Uncle Conrad. Don't worry. Still calling me uncle? Conrad glared. Call me Dad. I looked at Quinn. Her cheeks were slightly red, and she nodded lightly. Dad, I called. Conrad beamed and downed another glass. On the way home that night, Quinn sat in the passenger seat, watching the streetlights pass by. Suddenly, she said softly, Silas, thank you. For what? Thank you for being willing to trust me again. She turned to look at me, neon light reflected in her eyes. My dad said you didn't sleep for 3 days to handle Damon. He also said you could have swallowed Farstar Group completely, but you didn't. That's because if I swallowed your company, I wouldn't have money to spend, I deliberately teased her. She laughed and hit me lightly. Don't lie. The money in your accounts now is several times more than all of Farstar Group. That's different. I glanced at her. Your company is mine. Mine is yours. Why divide things so clearly? Quinn froze. Then her face slowly turned red. She turned her head to look out the window and said nothing more. But the corner of her mouth lifted high. One sunny weekend a month later. Quinn wore a loose home sweater and sat cross-legged on the living room carpet. A pile of documents spread across the coffee table. I walked over with 2 cups of hot tea, handed her one, and sat beside her. She accepted the tea. But her gaze stayed fixed on a sheet of paper, expression subtle. What's wrong? I leaned over to look. It was a notice from an auction house. Dear Ms. Quinn Vale, our spring rare items auction will be held on the 15th of next month. One of the items is a privately customized fountain pen named Stardust, First Heart. Opening bid, $120,000. Quinn lifted her head suddenly, eyes wide. This pen, is it the one you gave me? I froze too. I took the notice and read carefully. The material of the pen body and engraved letters all matched. Victor Lang. I did not know whether to laugh or be angry. That bastard is already arrested, yet he somehow sent the pen to auction? Quinn instantly puffed up in anger. No. This is our love token. How can anyone else buy it? She immediately picked up her phone and called someone. The moment the call connected, she spoke in a rush. Hello? Manager Warren from the auction house? That pen in your auction next month, I want to purchase it privately. What? It's already registered and can't be withdrawn? I don't care. I'll pay double. No, triple. No matter what, you must get it back for me. Watching her argue seriously on the phone, I could not help laughing. After hanging up, Quinn threw her phone aside angrily. Done. They said they'll make an exception and withdraw it for direct sale. How much? I asked. Not much. She blinked guiltily. Just $300,000. I nearly choked on my tea. $300,000 for a pen? Our pen. She corrected me, then leaned against me. I don't care. That pen can only be in my hands. No one else can take it. I looked down at her pouting, adorable face. Warmth surged through my heart. I rubbed her hair and said, "You really are a little possessive." I am. She buried her face in my chest. Everything related to you, I want to hold in my hands. Sunlight poured through the window, stretching our leaning shadows long across the floor. In the end, Quinn got the pen back. That night, she specially had a redwood box made and placed the pen inside, setting it in the most visible spot on the bedside table. She leaned against the headboard and stared at the box for a long time. Then she turned to ask me, "Silas, this pen is called Stardust, First Heart, right?" Then what does First Heart mean? I put down the book in my hand and looked at her serious profile. Slowly, I said, "First heart means the cleanest, purest thought in your heart the first time you see someone." She tilted her head and thought. "Then when I first saw you, my first heart was, this man is so gentle. I want to look at paintings with him." I smiled. "And now?" She turned toward me, held my face in both hands, and said solemnly, "Now my first heart is still the same. I want to look at paintings with you. Watch sunrise and sunset with you. And grow old with you." After saying that, she leaned over and gently kissed my forehead. I closed my eyes. Her lips were warm and soft, like the first petal of spring falling on water. "Quinn Vale. I love you." She paused. Then I heard her voice, smiling and damp. "I love you too." Outside the window, the night wind gently moved the curtains. Inside the redwood box on the bedside table, the engraving on the Stardust pen glowed warmly under the moonlight. I knew that from now on, nothing would separate us again. That's all for today's story. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment.